You're listening to Mark of the Maker. Hey everybody, I'm Mark Steiner and you're listening to Mark of the Maker, and this is episode 57 of the show. This one is a continuation. For those of you who listened to episode 56, and if you haven't listened to episode 56, go back and do that. This is part 2 of our interview with Derrick Obatake from Steel Flame. We have our regular crew, as always. It's myself, Tom Crine, Sean Kendrick, and Michael Birch, with Derrick joining us for some conversation. And this is just going to pick up where we left off. We'll give you a little bit of a section of the previous discussion to give you some context on where we were, and then we'll just keep on rolling with the original interview. Thanks for listening.
Some people, again, too, as an artist, for me, I've challenged myself, and I've been very fortunate to have really good mentors along the way to help me come out of my, quote, shell. I mean, being the guy that is D's and F's in every single academic subject in school, I now, I've made myself learn the books. I made myself learn how to read a legal agreement. You know, I made myself learn how to run a different program. I made myself learn about the business. And it wasn't just me, you know, again, too, I've been very fortunate to have really, really good mentors in the legal, accounting, you know, in different aspects of my business. But that's because I wanted that, you know, and my focus has shifted from not just creating this one, quote, widget, to creating the business. And now it's to creating, it's so much bigger than that, you know, even within our group, our forum, it's not just a product. It's the people, you know, and it's the community. So it's creating the community that to me is even bigger than whatever widget I can make, so to speak. And that's what drives me for different things and different product. So to me, the creativity, I feel that for me, can be on different levels and for so many different things. So even within our product offering, it's not just rings or not just silver. It's not, you know, it's so much more than that. It's so many different things that I could have fun with.
Yeah, and that piece is huge, that I can have fun with part.
Yeah, that is really huge.
I think, you know, like Michael said, we've certainly seen great examples where someone was very talented at the knife making thing and not interested in and or not good at the business piece, and maybe didn't care so much, right? Like, yeah, okay, I have to pay the bills, whatever. But, you know, not having a strong ability to plan things or whatever. And I think the mentoring thing is massive, right? I mean, that sounds like one of the lessons that you learned out of a lot of this is the mentorship is really, really powerful. And sometimes they're coincidental or accidental, like maybe your jewelry teacher, right? You took jewelry and surprise. Now you have this mentor that you didn't go actively seek out necessarily, right? It just, you realize that this is someone that you're going to learn a huge amount of things from. And in other cases, that mentorship is very active, right? Or it can be, where it doesn't happen by chance. It's, I'm going to go find someone, right? And maybe you get lucky and it's someone who's a friend of a friend, or, you know, your cousin or whatever, right? But there's no shame in actively seeking that and kind of studying at the feet of, right? Or doing what you need to do to get a mentorship relationship going where you're going to learn what you need to learn. And in the end, I think, a big piece of it, at least for me, is why am I doing what I'm doing? Right? Like why do I get up and, used to be drive to work. Now it's walk to my office, but why do
you get up and do what you do?
The motivation piece and that evolves over a career. I think whether it's a creative career, like you talked about, unless you stay as a sole entity holed up in a little room somewhere and don't expand. Okay. But I still think it tends to change over time, right? For lots of people, or maybe most people. And I think the self-awareness to be able to understand, one, what really makes this work for me, and two, the ability to make that transition from taking, I'm buried in this thing that makes me happy and leveraging it into, here's this thing that makes me happy that I can scale if that's what I want, right? Or if that I can expand if it's what I want, right? And explore new things as part of it. But those things aren't free, right? It's all part of a bigger picture. But sometimes that core self-realization piece, I think, is a real nugget that people have to understand to be able to do the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even for me, I mean, that's why I can understand. I mean, it's really not, hey, this person should be doing this, or so-and-so should be doing that. It's more like me understanding what I want, where I want to be. Because even for our business or my business right now, and business always goes up and down, but there's been times where we're just like cranking, and there's so many people that want our product. I mean, we're so blessed to have that, to the point where we cannot provide enough. We can't make it fast enough.
Right.
And then people will say, well, just hire more people. But I don't want to.
Right.
Because I've been there, done that. With my other business, we've had as many as 48 employees.
Oh, wow.
We used to run split shifts just to be able to get the product out. We were turning probably 300 to 500 customized pieces a day.
Oh, wow.
And
huge.
Drop shipping for companies like Nordstrom's, Disney, Warner. But the bottom fell out. It started turning down. And me as a young artist who was just trying to make something to sell, we caught on to something that was huge. And people were, at that time, people were literally beating a path to our door. And, you get caught up in it. You get caught up in thinking, oh, yeah, we're cranking, we're making so much money, we're growing, and it's just going to keep going up. Well, it doesn't, and no one can tell you that it's not. When you're in it, you're just doing it. We were just trying to meet the demand. And it got to the point where it started turning down, and then I had this huge machine that I had to feed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't turn it around. And it was hell writing it down. We rode red for over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
But we never defaulted on anything. So having lived through from 1 employee to 48, back down to 4, to me was a huge lesson.
Yeah.
And now we're still, with Steel Flame, like I said, I mean, there's times where we're just, we just can't make enough product. But again, too, people would say, well, why don't you just hire more people? Why don't you grow it? You can make so much more money. I don't want to.
Right.
Because I have this personal connection with our community, because I like what I'm doing, because I can make whatever I want, when I want. And that's what drives me, and and I can make people happy on a more individual basis. It still gets a little bit out of control, but I'm very happy with where I'm at. And money is not the bottom line. We make enough to pay the bills, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's something to be said about keeping your circle small. Being the owner, that's one thing that would worry the absolute shit out of me is not only my family, then I have someone else's family to take care of too.
Oh yeah.
That my success is in charge of, that would worry the shit out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's all these different decisions, but that's why I believe, people eventually they are where they are because that's where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's always the stretch. Oh, I'd like to be here. And there's goals and so on. But the bottom line is you have to really understand what you really want and how much you're willing to give for that. So to me, I'm quite happy with where we are because I get to make a difference in people's lives, whether or not they just get a little piece and they're happy with that, versus, even within our forum, it's so amazing. We can do little fundraisers to help families and people and different things like that. And that to me is bigger than any project that we can make or anything I can get or anything material. That's what drives me.
Yeah.
Plus, I get to have fun making stuff.
Right.
That's the cool part.
That doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think your earlier comment's pretty huge, Derrick. Right, where like you've had the experience of seeing it get big and not be sustainable for whatever reason, right? Outside, demand, whatever.
Yeah, things change.
Yeah, and sometimes the old thing about school of hard knocks or whatever. But there's such huge lessons in that stuff that I think. To me, I keep saying self-reflection, but I think it's a huge piece of all that stuff, right? Is knowing when to throttle it a little, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't need to grow the business, right? I'm happy. And man, that's a, not mature, meaning cool guy way, like having the ability to have the perspective to say, I'm okay doing this, right? Not just okay, but this is exactly what I want. And I don't need it to be more or, different in a way that satisfies somebody else, right? I might need it to be different in a way that makes me happy because I'm doing more, learning more, accomplishing more, whatever it is that lights the fire for you. But there's a maturity thing that sometimes can only come with experience, right? Or a really strong mentorship where someone else, you can see someone else go through it and whoa, okay.
Kind of having lived through it,
Exactly.
And when you're going through it, I've gotten advice from other people about, not growing it too big and this and that. And, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm in it, and there's always the excuse because, you're in it. But what I've taken away from that and what I've realized having gone through all of that is that when you're in it in that type of perspective, you have to feed the machine.
Yeah.
The business. Every day rent's going to come due. Every day payroll is going to, every week payroll's due. Bills got to be paid, all that kind of stuff. And then my focus is not on creating. My focus is not on doing what I want to do. It's on how can I make more money to feed this machine.
Yep.
And the focus on money is not what I like. It's not what I'm all about. I'm not driven by that dollar. Yes, I need it for my family. I need it to buy certain things. I need it because I want to play around with my cars or whatever that might be, but it's not the number one.
Right.
So to me, the number one, the reason why I like getting up every morning and coming in early and working late is because I like creating product, but it's also because I like creating product that people want, and it's product that can affect somebody. It's because it makes them happy for whatever reason that might be. That's what drives me.
Do you find that you would rather make like 100 of a smaller, less expensive piece, or fewer, more expensive pieces?
So that's a very interesting question, because actually I like doing things across the board. And for me, I've always, what's exciting about being in control and where we are right now is that I study all different types of processes. Water jet, laser, machining. Even though I don't do all of that on my own, I study it and I find contacts that can help me with different things. So yes, we are, I can pretty much say I can make anything I want. But I think I have a pretty good understanding of who my customer is. I think I have a pretty good understanding of our community because I immerse myself in that. Even during the day, I look and see what's going on. I see what's going on with different people and what they're going through and what they're looking for. Even in the aftermarket part, I see what people are asking for, what they're selling. Mm-hmm. And I think I have a pretty good pulse of what they would like. And not everyone can afford, the single, $3,000, $4,000 piece. There's a lot of people that could barely afford the $20 piece. So I like to provide product for the full spectrum, which is kind of what we do. We have pieces we have tags that cost $20 that we could do hundreds of. Even our mollies, still might be a little bit pricey at $50 to $100, but then we could do a lot more of those so that we could get it into the hands of a lot more people. Yeah. But then sometimes I get this wild, crazy idea that I want to do this custom bottle opener, and I spend, 3 or 4 days making it. And we put it up for open bid or we sell it for, hundreds of dollars. That's fun too. But it's kind of part of the creative. It's a creative release. Yeah. And what's really nice from a design perspective is, I could get an idea for a molly and come in and make it. I can get an idea for a bracelet that's big, or, carve the wax model, or, it's like whatever pops into my head, I get to do it.
That's the great thing about surrounding yourself with machineries and filling your processes of knowledge that you can. I love that aspect of, I have something in my mind, I get to go and I can build it. It may take me a week, but I have the abilities, or I have the process or the tools to say, I can put this together. Yeah. But the reason I asked that was like, I kind of went the opposite way, where I made so many of, not a lot, but so I would make a custom knife and it'd be like one piece. So you'd have one person happy and a lot of people upset that they didn't get it, versus, doing like a bottle opener or something like that, where you get to make a lot more people happy, which is kind of nice sometimes, instead of just that one big lottery. And
exactly. It's kind of the sad truth that when you can only make a couple pieces or one piece at a time and so on, it's like one customer at a time. But you might have 1,000 people that want it, but it's only one piece,
which is good and bad. I appreciate that people want it, but sometimes it gets kind of sour, I guess.
Yeah, but that's where I think, for me, from a design perspective, is I'm not so focused on just the custom that I want to make, because sometimes that's kind of, that could be the focus. But then, I try and provide product that can reach a broader spectrum of folks. And not so much just to get it into the hands too, but not everyone can afford the high dollar stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys do a fantastic job of that, because just getting like a tag or something from you guys is fun. And
yeah,
I don't know, it brings a smile to my face. It's no matter the price point.
Well, that brings a smile to my face that, I mean, when people get it, that's the most rewarding aspect. I mean, and that's where, I've been doing a lot of contemplating as far as, my life and this stuff. And eventually I want to write a book to help designers and stuff like that. But I think it's kind of like part of that ego. We all have that ego that we need to feed.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a good and a bad thing, but it's how to control it and how to contain it, how to leverage it so that it could work in your favor. So whenever I want to create something, yes, that's my ego. It's like, I want to get out there. I want to do this. I want to take a picture and share it with everybody, see how many comments or likes I get, or get it into somebody and make them happy. I mean, that's the biggest reward. And sometimes, to me, we've been there, done that way. We've done some stuff with some well-known names and stuff like that, and they could afford whatever they could afford to buy whatever they want. But that doesn't mean as much to me as the guy that scrimps and saves, for a whole week to be able to buy a $50 item or something like that. And he's so excited to get it. I mean, that's the biggest reward.
Yeah. Very much.
But so really, I mean, where we're at right now, for me, I couldn't ask for anything more. We have an amazing group of fans and friends. I get to do pretty much whatever I want, and I get to make a living at it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
We get to make people happy, and also too, we get to affect people in a different way. Even like with Farmer Rob, I mean, his vision and what he's done, it's amazing. But it's so fun because it's not so much with the funds that he donates to charity. It's the involvement that he pulls people into, and that involvement in turn helps those people to grow, and they become different people.
Right.
Because they have the opportunity to give and be part of something that is they couldn't otherwise be a part of. That's exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of that sort of thing, could you fill us in on what Hgr is all about?
Okay. Actually, Hgr started when I was on the USN. I would always sign off with every correspondence, humble gratitude and respect. Because I was always humbled by the fact that they would even be interested in what I was doing. I was always grateful, and I was always respectful of them. And that's something that I always kept in my head because I knew what it was like to make something, put it up, and have nothing but crickets. I've built collections. I've done, when I first started on my own, I built like 3 different collections and nothing. I didn't know how to sell it. I didn't know where to go. No one was interested in it. So with that, I'm always grateful for the fact that people even want pieces that I make. And then it kind of evolved, and people started mimicking or closing out as well Hgr. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna morph it a little bit to honor gratitude, respect, because I don't expect them to be, if they're carrying it, I don't expect them to be humble. and it kind of evolved to be something that everyone else started identifying with the honor, gratitude, respect. So that now we start marking all our pieces. We even have pieces that just have HGR on there. But it has become a reminder for me. And, as you get fans, so to speak, they kind of put you on a pedestal. But in reality, we're just human. We fart and burp just like everybody else. Right?
Yep.
And we do everything just like everybody else. And I don't want to be put on this, quote, pedestal, but I have to remind myself as well every single day, humble, gratitude, respect. So it's really not for other people to read and become. It's also for me, or more importantly, for me to remember that, to be humble and grateful and respectful. So I think, with a lot of companies, they have their mantra or their unifying principle of how they feel the company should be, and it's something that hopefully the employees embrace. I'm sure Mark, the GM, probably has something like that, right?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So to me, that's has become our unifying principle, but more so my unifying principle. Whether I have to keep reminding myself every day, because sometimes it gets challenging.
Yeah.
But
especially when you have products that are in super high demand or whatever, right? And that can go lots of directions, right? People sometimes get the ego thing a little blown out of proportion, and that causes problems. And
there's always something with the miscommunication or misperception and so on. It gets tough, but I think if we still try and stay as true to that part as much as we can, it's all we can ask for.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting insight because, I think sometimes people, when they come at it and have not been around you or your team or the kind of the progression that the brand went through and just the whole scene went through, you know what I mean? I think it can come across as like a corny sloganish kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, look at that.
Understand. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, look at these people with the HGR thing, whatever, goofballs.
Yeah.
But but there's really something there, right? There's a core to that is powerful and meaningful. And
we're honorable. We're humble goofballs. Yeah. But
that's the G in G is goofball.
Maybe we should change that last word. I think that would be pretty fun.
Jim, you're really good at Jim.
Yeah. 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 I know it's tough. I mean, sometimes it seems like no matter what you do, you just can't please everyone.
Absolutely.
But we just do what we can and hope for the best. But again, too, we're so blessed. I mean, with the community that we're a part of. I mean, not only within Steel Flame, but as you guys know, within the whole knife community, it's really amazing how everyone comes together to help out or and do different things. It's something to be a part of. That a lot of people don't get, and it's not the same in other industries. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's a culture, right? There's a cultural thing around it that you see it over and over again, even certainly to this day, right? Where even post USN kind of era, where lots of people have never had that. I say post, right? People that have never had that forum experience
outside of the USN.
Yeah, exactly. Where like certainly when I came to the USN, it was like, whoa, okay, there are expectations here of lots of things, right? And some of it's beautiful and some of it's kind of funky and some of it's whatever, but kind of finding your own way in that was very powerful, right? And and like you said, it's kind of an interesting thing. I've said it in other episodes on the show, but there is no question in my mind that my approach to things and my approach to people and situations absolutely, without question, has been influenced by the people that I have been around through the USN and through the knife world and whatever, right? It's changed me as a person. And that's a really powerful thing if you stop and think about it, right? It's like, whoa. It's like hopefully, I'm not going to wood over here, better person or different person than I was before that. And it's not an overnight thing, right? It's a growth thing, a personal growth thing. But gosh, maybe I'm still an asshole, but I feel good about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, we all have our moments, so to speak, but
right.
But agreed. I mean, and when you think about it too, within the community that we're in, I mean, it's a lot of guys are, quote, military. A lot of guys deal with, they're sheepdogs, right? And to be the sheepdog, but then also to understand the soft side of who you are is pretty amazing. And to show that part of it, again, too, is pretty amazing. And a lot of people think that these guys, all they do is train on how to take somebody out. They got to be hard. They have no feelings, but they do. They have hearts just like everybody else. And that to me is what is humbling and amazing to be able to tap into and to understand that, yes, we can affect that person in a positive way.
Yep.
By something as small as a little charm. Because they all have something to embrace, something that means something to them.
Yeah.
But, knives, guns, everyone thinks, a bunch of crazies. But it's not,
Yeah.
It's a bunch of soft teddy bears with big hearts.
Yep. The first time I brought Amy to a show, that was my warning going in is, okay, you're going to see a bunch of dudes that you might like step over to the other side of the street from if you saw them and didn't know them. And I guarantee you're going to be blown away. And she's like, oh, whoa, okay. Well, I don't know what that means exactly. What are we walking into a biker bar? I'm like, well, it might look like that at times. Right? But yeah, you're going to be surprised. And after that first show, she's like, oh my God, I don't think I've hugged as many people in my life as I did. And I didn't know any of them. Right. It's like, that's cool.
It's literal bear hugs because these guys are like bears. I mean, right? They could crush you.
Absolutely. But there's a lot of beauty to that. People that don't do the show thing, right, or haven't taken the opportunity to deal with in-person, the in-person side of it. We encourage that a lot on this show, right, where we talk about, man, please find the time. And I know it's expensive to travel and sometimes it's hard, but go do it because it completely changes the dynamics of the whole thing, right? It makes it very, very different.
Yeah. I mean, people can't understand what we're doing. I mean, even too, we don't show much because technically our forum is secret. They can't even find us.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy in another way, but it's so amazing. The guys that are in there, they're amazing people. It's mind blowing.
Yep.
And the mind blowing thing is like, guys will give things to other people that they don't even know. It's very rewarding. I mean, to see things like that happen.
It's uplifting and kind of a world of shit to see some of that sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then on the other hand, you come out to the real world, and then you get kind of jaded, and then it's like, oh, not everybody's like that. So you gotta put your guard up, so to speak, and defenses, and go back to being the sheepdog.
Right.
I guess I kind of want to circle back around a little bit more to the design element of this. When you're talking, I was thinking, how did you land on skulls and stuff? Because you do a ton of skulls. So how did that happen?
So, when I was making all the other jewelry for women, I mean, I would do custom engagement rings. Lucienne is a very wholesome stick figure, cute moms and kids. And there's the other part of me that wanted to do something kind of cool. And I would look at, other makers like Starling Gear. I mean, and Bill Wall and some of these other makers that were doing a huge business in Japan at that time. Chrome Hearts. And I thought, okay, I want to be edgy and make cool stuff like them. That's the dude way. And you'd have companies like Chrome Hearts that would just put fuck across the front of a hat.
Right.
And I thought, okay, I got to be like that. But I couldn't. And I'm glad I didn't. It didn't feel right. But I started making some different things. And the very first skull piece I carved was a spike, kind of a spike cross with screws on it. And I carved a skull for the center part. And I did it kind of quick, And then I showed it to a friend of mine. And he looks at it. He goes, "This is really cool, but that skull looks kind of goofy." Which was the best thing that he could ever said to me. Because then I went back and I studied skulls. I Googled, and I looked at all different kinds of real skulls, different skulls, and I carved another one, and it was better. And then, so I started making a few pieces with that, and then I thought, this, after a while, when you first make it, this is really cool. And then after a while, it's like, it could be a little bit better. So it evolved. So then the skull started evolving to kind of what it is now. And even then, they're going to evolve some more, I know. But I guess skulls to me are very fun because even while I was in the different art classes, the limited, what little experience I had, I always had a hard time with faces, drawing faces. But skulls are not really faces, it's kind of like a little bit more organic, more raw. So I like making skulls because you can tweak it and whack it out and give it some expression or give it some different feel. And they lend itself well to a lot of the finishes that we do, which was kind of unique, and so with textures and stuff like that. So that's why we do a lot of skulls. But I like doing crosses too, but believe it or not, sometimes the crosses are more of a pain in the butt to make than the skulls because you got clean, crisp lines. Everything has to be, straight and symmetrical and so on. And working with casting is tough because, it's a very amorphous thing. Sometimes things change. At every step, things change. So even too with the skulls, we spend a lot of time going over all the details. We go over every single centimeter, every single millimeter of that piece, to finish it off and get it to where we want. But sometimes skulls are fun because even too, when I'm finishing a skull from the casting, I can tweak this expression a little bit on the forehead, the eyebrows, certain things. So even then, sometimes the same skull is going to look a little different they're all going to be unique. They're all going to be a little bit different. So that's kind of fun as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I think the style that you do them is, to me, it always seemed more of, I'm going to use the word accurate, and that's probably not the right word, but almost more like
rat rod.
Maybe accurate's the right word. Yeah, rat rod, but like detail and
detailed, yeah,
and shape that makes sense of what you think of as a skull, right? And that's kind of cool because there's all these different styles, right? The Bill Wall stuff is sort of super stylized. The Starling Gear stuff has got like a cool comic bookish kind of flair to it, and I don't know,
expression. It's fun. I mean, it's still not exactly. I know what you mean. It's not full, true to life.
Right.
It's still kind of like our own, so to speak. Yeah, it's fun playing around with those things. I mean, I think a lot of it too is I like textures, especially with the finishing that we do. Textures lend itself very well to that.
Yeah,
and it's I don't know. It's been fun doing that kind of stuff, but it's also fun doing other things. I mean, we have tons of different elements that we work with and play with, but that's the exciting part because we can combine and mix and match and put it on different things. So, we have trays of, of skulls and of crosses and parts, just parts. And then sometimes I go in there kind of like a chef.
Yeah.
And I go through the trays and I pull this part, I pull that part, and I see, how do these look on this molly or whatever it is we're building? And I say, okay, that looks kind of cool. Okay, let's do that. And then we do a run of it. So we do a small batch, and that's what keeps it fun and fresh.
Having that palette of things to draw on is pretty big. Right?
Yeah. We're fortunate that we can. I mean, versus, we try and stock up on it because at least that way we kind of are at a certain point where we know that we can use it and move it. Versus, like back in the day, it's like, I don't know if I could afford to cast, 20 pieces.
Right.
I can only cast 5 pieces or 6 pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you finish it off and you get it and you sell it and then you keep turning it. But
Tom, were you going to ask something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to make a statement. One, I personally like the crosses. I really, even if they're harder to make, I love the Crusader Cross. For me, that's a really kind of a cool, meaningful piece. But my son Ben regularly wears he's got a couple kill boxes. And I was wondering if we kind of get the backstory on the kill box and how that came to be.
Yeah, that's kind of like our signature piece.
Yeah, they're really cool.
So when I was making when I kind of first went off on my own from the fine jewelry segment, I was playing around a lot with the sterling silver sheet metal, for our other product line. So we would punch out tags and stuff like that. And then being into shooting, I thought, I wonder how this would look if I took it to the range and put a hole in it. So that's how it started. I took some silver sheet metal, took it to the range, punched some holes, kind of trimmed it out. And then having kind of a mechanical mindset, I would try and source screws, miniature screws. Back in the day, I didn't know, but back in those days, I was using 256 screws before I even knew about knives, which those are in almost every single knife nowadays.
Right.
For sure.
But so I was, trying to stack, build standoffs so that the bullet hole wouldn't be against your skin. And that's how the kill box started. And then I would do some research as far as I didn't know what to name it. And that came around for a while. I mean, I I think the kill box, the first bullet hole piece was probably, I want to say 20, 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And they were kind of, hand cut, and I would saw little cracks into it and different things and just kind of play around with it. But it wasn't until I got on the USN, and in those days, guys weren't wearing much jewelry, unless you were kind of a rapper. And even big pieces, And then I kind of figured a way. I made a frame, and I scaled it down as tight as I could so that I could still have the bullet hole showing. And I figured a way that I could screw it onto the frame. And that's how the frame came to be. And then, so I did a lot of research trying to figure out the name. And I found Killbox. Killbox is basically, I think it's the military term, coordinates for a strike zone. So that's what I termed it.
Yeah.
That's when we started on the USN.
Yeah, super cool.
So it's been fun making those. And I never thought that we'd be making as many as we have been making. But there's another really unique story with the Killbox is that on the USN, there was this guy, Jason Crespo, and he was going through he was diagnosed with cancer. And he was a big fan on the USN. And we had another friend, Richard D'Onofrio, who actually owned a shooting range in Florida that lived close to Jason. So I hand-stamped cancer onto a blank plate all over, chaos pattern. And I sent it to Rich. He had Jason come and shoot it so he could kill cancer himself. Sent it back to me, and then I trimmed it and I mounted it into a frame so that Jason could wear it as a pendant. And he's cancer-free, which is very cool. Got to kill cancer.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
But that kind of evolved, and it's a tough thing for me because I can't make enough of them, and I hate charging for those things because how do you charge somebody something, when they're going through hell? So usually they're free. I don't know if we want to put that in here because I can't afford to give everything away to everyone.
Right.
It's very tough. They're free or they're really, really cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So I was trying to figure a way to make the cost better, and then so that more people could have it. And that's where we came up with the Cancer Killbox patch.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that way it's a patch, very, inexpensive, and you could still take that patch out and shoot it yourself, put a bullet hole through it. First patch ever that's designed to be shot.
Yeah. And tons of people do. That's very cool to see.
Yeah, it's cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's evolving still.
Out of curiosity, what do you usually shoot those with?
Hardball. 45 hardball, of course, 45,
Okay.
1911. 9mm works pretty good too. But for some reason, it's really interesting. With 9mm, you would think the hole wouldn't be as drawn out as it is, but it is.
It's too fast.
Yeah, I don't know. But speed is, and that's one thing, I've shot a bunch of different materials with a bunch of different calibers. If you take sterling silver and punch it with a 5.56, it's almost like, you ever see those slow motion videos of a drop hitting water where the water splashes back up?
Yeah.
That's what the silver looks like.
Oh, wow.
Huh.
It's completely flat with almost like a splash coming back out from the front.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's too fast. So a lot of times I'll use 300 blackout hardball.
Yep.
That makes a nice hole because it's slow enough, and that puts a pretty good hole, nice, concave hole into the piece.
At our gun range, we had the gun range I used to go to all the time when I was doing the IPSC shooting thing. We had some steel targets, some poppers and plate racks and stuff, and they weren't super hard, right? They weren't like AR-500s, whatever, armor steel. So there was a rule, right? You can't shoot the plates with bigger than a certain caliber or steel core. You can't shoot steel core. And you could shoot certain stuff, right? But that's exactly what would happen is some idiot would eventually shoot them, a bunch of them, with the wrong stuff. And they had that exact characteristic that you described where there was metal on the positive side, right?
Yeah.
Which is not where you would expect to see it, but that's exactly what it was, right? Like where the tip went in and spread the metal out and it ended up building up material around the hole. It was always like, whoa, check that out.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's really interesting to see all the ways the different calibers would play around with the metal. And of course, it depends on which type of material too. And then one time, a guy came to me at Blade and he wanted a niobium kill box. And I thought, wow, I don't know, it's like, it'd have to be thin, so he got me a plate and I went to visit Jeremy and we shaved Jeremy Marsh. And we actually shaved that niobium plate down to where it was thin enough to shoot. And that was the first niobium kill box.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. Those are pretty fun to do. But now with the niobium kill boxes, they're a real pain in the butt to make because I have to buy the plates and they're usually about an 1/8 inch thick, and I have to quarter them and then roll them out on a rolling mill by hand till they're about 40 thousandths thick.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of rolling, annealing, and then I shoot them.
For people who haven't seen those, one of the cool things about niobium is it takes great color, right? Like titanium, you can anodize it and do all kinds of funky things with it.
Yeah, that's with the pure niobium plates. But the superconductor, those, I tried to put color into the superconductor, and those were tough because what happens is through the annealing process, I would have to get the metal red hot. So that already puts a heavy black oxide coating over the superconductor. So I can't get any color out of that part unless I grind the crap out of it.
Ah, okay. So when you talk about doing it with Jeremy, that was the first time you had done the superconductors, copper niobium.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. But then we started playing around with the niobium. That's pretty fun too. Niobium is a really interesting metal because it's soft enough to where we could bend and form and do things like make kill boxes out of it. But it anodizes like super vibrant colors.
Yeah.
And you could burn it kind of like a lot of guys do with the zirconium. But what's cool is that you could burn it with... So niobium you can burn, laser, and anodize. Zirconium you can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Very cool. And then you guys have run a bunch of directions from the cancer kill box thing. You've done all kinds of different words and stuff on the plates, right? That's a really neat thing to see. Yeah,
there's so much out there that people have issues with. We've done tons of different things. The one where we kind of draw the line, which we've been asked to, is to put someone's name on there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Definitely don't go there.
Right. Like an X? Someone's asked for that?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
And then we came out with the Bulletproof, which is kind of neat because some people started asking for more positive things. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to put a hole in something like that. So we do the Bulletproof plates. So we'll have something more positive on the plate. like love or family, and then I'll smash a bullet into the front so it didn't penetrate. So it's basically bulletproof, which is kind of another fun thing that we do.
Yeah, that's a really cool concept.
Yeah, thanks. But that's where we get to play around with a lot of things. It makes it fun and exciting.
Upset you weren't able to make my Tom box.
Tom? Oh.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you could punch a blade through there.
Nice.
You make your own.
The stab box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stab box.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no.
There you go. Next $1 million idea, stab box.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't look right, though.
I already
tried it.
Like a voodoo doll or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No, it just, something we can't say on the air. It just doesn't look right.
There you go. Yeah,
especially if you turn it around. You're going to delete that, right, Mark?
Sure. Oh, yeah. We're only nice on the show. We wouldn't do anything vulgar. So tell us, if you want, Derrick, you want to talk a little more about the book project? You mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
Kind of like for creative people. You want to talk about that or no?
We could talk a little bit about that. Something I've been wanting to do for a long time because, for my life to go from where it was in high school to now, we've been through a lot of different things. I mean, in business, from one employee to a bunch and then back down, and also the creative process and from going from a business, I've had like a second win with Steel Flame, basically. I was very fortunate to be able to have that. And understanding how the different industries, how marketing used to be in the past and to what it is now, I think, there's a lot of things that I'm hoping to help other designers, other artists with. And I've been mentoring quite a few, throughout my career. And it's something I'm very passionate about, just kind of learned from Mr. Lyons, and I'd like to be able to help more. Sometimes it's hard because, I can't spend all the time with one person at a time, but I'm thinking a book would be really cool to give them some basics to work on and some things to think about, because as a creative, I think sometimes, I could see where you could get stuck into a hole, so to speak, and it's like, well, what do I do now? And not knowing, which direction to go and how to make a living with what you're creating. I think sometimes it's just having just a little bit of knowledge or a little bit of push to get going down the right path. I think could be helpful for a lot of people. So I'm hoping to put that together.
So kind of in the early phases of starting to get the ideas together, kind of?
Yeah. I mean, I've had an outline done for years now. But, with the work, it's been crazy. So it's hard to sit down and actually write it out. And then I'm pretty slow with writing. So where I'm really fortunate, though, is my brother. He's very smart. He's very good at advertising. He's been in advertising. He's a great writer. Again, super smart. So he's helping me to co-write this book to get it going. And who knows where it could go from there. But
yeah. Really cool.
Pretty excited about it.
Yeah, very.
And I'm guessing, Derrick, just as a hunch, but you're not talking, this isn't like a recipe direct kind of a thing. This is more of like more of a principles of these different pieces kind of a thing, or I guess.
Actually, there's a lot to it, really.
Okay.
What's really exciting is that there is kind of the nuts and bolts. It's like, if you want to start, these are some of the steps to consider taking.
Yeah.
Even like writing a business plan, to me, that's the number one step that you need to do. And most people think, a business plan, I don't know how to write it. I don't know what to do. I had my friend help me with my business plan when I first went off on my own, mainly because he was very good at organizing. He wasn't necessarily the businessman, so to speak, to tell me what to do or how to write it. He was very good at organizing. So he helped me to organize, and he's actually a banker, so he helped me to organize what I needed financially and how to see whether or not I could make it on my own or not, if I could afford to do it. So he actually helped me. Basically, it's just pretty much a very simple balance sheet. It's like, okay, rent's going to cost me X amount. I'm going to have utilities. I got to pay for that, and how much is it going to cost me every month to be in business? Because that's the reality of what it is to be in business. Even if you're working out of your house, you're going to have certain costs and expenses. You're going to need to be paying for rent and certain things. So it's kind of estimating what you want to make, figuring out, how much you're going to sell it for, who you can sell it for, getting an estimate as to how much you can make, every week, every month, bringing it down that way. You need to have that so that as you're going through it, you have a target in the back of your head. You can do all your creative stuff and whatever you want to do, but at the end of the week, you have to make X amount of dollars. And that's the thing that a lot of creatives don't think about. They don't understand. And then they start digging a hole. They think, I'm going to make these widgets and they're going to be cool. And they might be cool as hell and all that stuff. But then at the end of the day, rent comes due. And if they can't pay rent, they're not going to have a place to be able to make their stuff.
Right.
So, the very bottom line, that's the first level. That's the first thing that, that they need to consider. So there's going to be nuts and bolts parts of that. Yeah. And then there's going to be the psychological part of it, and being the creative, ADD, low self-esteem, all those things that I've had to go through to kind of come out of that shell and to create what I have, have created up until now. There's a certain mindset that needs, and there's certain things that need to take place in order to make that happen. And it doesn't boil down to a matter of, what's good looking or what's not. It's more of, who is your target market? Who do you want to sell to? Whatever you're creating is, what's the price point? Is it going to be viable or not? How do you do the marketing? And today, what's really exciting for a lot of small makers is that we're in an era or age where marketing is free.
Right.
And it's amazing. Because back in the day, in order for me to sell something, I had to make a collection that was big enough to be able to take to a store, and hopefully that store owner would buy some of that collection.
Yeah.
If they bought some of that collection and also buy, they had to have enough faith in that collection to pay me. A lot of times you would go to that store and they'd take it on consignment. They say, well, I don't know if we could sell this.
Right.
But you leave it with me and then we'll pay you if it sells. And then that store would have to sell it. And those customers would then have to tell their friends, oh, look at what I got. No internet, no phones. And then hopefully, oh, I got it here. They go back to the store and that store would then start selling more, hopefully selling more of your product. So you'd have to build your business based on how many stores you were selling to. If you wanted to do an ad in a magazine, sometimes you'd get a 1x2 inch ad in the back of a magazine, and it would cost you $700 or $800.
Right.
And maybe you make enough to pay for that ad if you're lucky. Nowadays, you make it, you take a picture with your phone, you post it up on Instagram or Facebook, immediately someone's going to see it. Your friends, followers, you may only have 2 followers at that time. But, eventually you're going to get 3 followers, and then 4, and then 5. And then by the end of the year, you'll have 365 followers. If you keep working it. And it's how to do that, how to make it noteworthy, how to make it, how to build that brand. And it takes work, but a lot of it is the nuts and bolts on how to do that part of it.
Yeah.
And also to having the nuts and bolts of, helping them to understand that they can, and at what level of business do they want to be. So, maybe even someone started and they're at first level and they want to go to the second level. Well, here's some things to think about to go to the next level. And do you really want to go to that next level?
Yep.
So there's a lot of different things that could be in there.
It seems like one of the things that I see oftentimes around creative people is and it's not even just creative people. It's stuff where there's something that you're involved with that's a passion, and it's easy to wreck it by, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I think it feels tainted to people when it starts to involve money and a path and business plan. That I didn't make XYZ because business plan, and instead it's really the inverse, right? Like no.
Yeah.
These things are what are going to enable you to do this for real.
More. Yes, absolutely.
And I think something like what you're talking about, it would be super helpful for people to kind of turn their heads a little sideways and say, no, this is good for you. You should want to do these things and make a real go at them, because when it works, then you get to the payoff is getting to do what you want to do.
Yeah,
exactly. And that, I think, to me is part of the biggest issue with a lot of creatives, and me especially, knowing and living through that, is having insecurities, throughout my life. It's always been, I don't deserve money. I don't deserve it. Back in my mind, it was always be, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to be successful. So that's one of my demons that I'm always fighting with. But then that's the demon I fight with the ego,
right.
Which is kind of a crazy thing, but it all boils down to perspective. And there's ways that you can adjust your mind through perspective. And so I'm always combating that side of deserving the money. But then also, too, like you said, I need the money in order to grow. I need the more money in order to be who I am as an artist or as a company. And if I'm not that, I can't make other people happy.
Like allowing yourself to be successful. And that's hard sometimes to.
Yeah, it is, especially, again, too, with low self-esteem.
But I mean, ego and low self-esteem is the same thing. It's just, the ego is just one that's been fed more. I mean, that's all it really is. And it's kind of crazy how they're very similar.
But then that's where I even for me, I kind of leverage it. It's like ego is not a bad thing. It's how I view it.
Right.
It's like my ego is what drives me to do certain things.
Yeah.
But I can't let it take over that. I can't let it cross that line. That's why I have the humble gratitude and respect in front of me. So it's always, all these crazy things are always going through my head, with what I'm doing. And people think, oh yeah, he's just making stuff and he's putting it up. It's like, How easy is that? They don't know that there's a constant battle going on inside my head that, and most artists and creatives understand that battle because they go through it every day. And that is really the reason why, to me, the book is so important, is to help artists and creatives to understand that, yes, they do deserve it. Yes, they can leverage what they want. Yes, they can get out of this hole that they think they're stuck in, they can be successful and they can have the dreams that they want.
Right. So it's okay for those things to all happen.
Yeah. Right? And how to do it. I mean, maybe, everyone's got a different path. Everyone's got different reasons and stuff. But it's kind of like, how do you alleviate the roadblocks that are going on in your mind? Because those roadblocks are the ones that are going to keep you where you're at. They're the roadblocks that are going to keep you from your dreams. But sometimes the roadblocks they're not always easy to get rid of or bypass or get over. But it's possible, it's all perspective and how you look at it.
Yeah. And like you said, it isn't even necessarily a thing where the get over it is a singular event and you're done, right?
There's tons.
Maybe it's like you said, it's like HGR, right? I'm going to look at that every day because I need that, right?
Yeah.
Right? That constant grounding thing that reminds you who you are, where you came from, why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. And, I think...
And that keeps you consistent, whatever your unifying principle, it keeps you consistent to who you are and who you want to be. But it's a road, it's a path. It's not a straight line, and you can't see what's beyond a certain point, but you have to continue down that road. So a lot of times it's hard for people to take that first step. I don't know. That might be, I don't know if that makes sense, but
it does.
But a lot, these are all things that, go on in my head. And I think if I can help someone unblock some of that, then I could die easy.
Well, consistent with all the other stuff you've talked about, right? It's rewarding. And that's, I've had that experience with engineers that I've mentored before where they're successful and, I can see them be successful and whether it hasn't, it's not like they're not coming and high-fiving me when they are, but it's like, wow, I worked with that guy and look at that. He's shining. That's fantastic. Right. I do that for free. Don't tell the GM that.
You helped a little bit, and you affected them. And who knows? I mean, it's not like holding their hand and doing everything for them. It's like maybe just one little word is all it takes. Even for me, I look back and sometimes that's all it took for me to make some change and to look at things in a different light and one little word, one little experience and then I start working on it and evolving.
A few big adjustments and a million little ones over time.
Yeah. Yeah. But everything's an evolution. I mean, even in the art, like how I was talking about the skulls, it's the first one and then the next one and the next one. And it's all an evolution. A lot of times, even like now, the first of the year, what am I going to do this year? Sometimes I don't know. I don't know what's around the corner. But something big could be around the corner next month. I don't know what it is, but
exactly.
And that's how it's been kind of kind of like when the whole spinner craze was coming out.
Right.
That year was just starting and I'm thinking, what am I going to do to keep this fresh, or what's the next idea that I can put into it? And I had no clue what we'd be doing. But one little idea changed a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome, Derrick. That's a really, really cool conversation about that. And I think self-reflection, balance, right? There are a whole bunch of things all kind of fitting together and at the core.
Yeah. It's been interesting. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's bring it back around to knives. Now, you've made a few knives. Would you care to talk to us about that experience?
Yeah, I have made a few, just a few, but not really all by myself. I don't know. I'm always saying to myself, man, to be a knife maker, it's definitely a labor of love. I mean, I don't see how you guys do it. I guess it's something that's been an obsession of mine or a goal of mine for a long time. And I actually bought a knife grinder, maybe about 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dang.
I bought it from a company in Canada. I was, going through the typical knife magazines, and I found a company in Canada. I don't even remember the brand name, but it wasn't very good. I thought it was good, but it howled like crazy. So I bought that grinder, and I bought some O1 tool steel. And being that I like thick blades, is probably about a 1/4 inch thick. And I tried cutting it. And I got probably halfway through a 1-inch wide bar with a hacksaw about halfway through, and I said, screw this, I'm not making a knife.
Oh, with a hacksaw.
Yeah. It was just too hard to cut, and I had no clue what I was doing. And it sat. That piece of steel, I don't know if I still have it, but that piece of steel sat for, well, it's still sitting. And then, one thing, good thing about the knife grinder is that it probably made the very first belly song trainer. Because my friend Al Iba used to, well, he still does own I&I Sports. And he had given me some belly songs to dull, to make them rounded and take the edge off.
Okay.
So I used that grinder to dull and mess up these blades.
What I use mine for.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
Yeah, oh God.
That's the start of my knife making career.
You just went at it backwards, Derrick.
Yeah.
No, I think we all started out fucking
Well,
shit
okay,
up.
that's fair.
Yeah. But I actually I didn't get paid for it. I just did it for him because, to help him out. But he would send me boxes and boxes, and it was to the point where, he was it. He was the belly song trainer, supplier online. So that's what I used to do. And then, I had some employees, and I showed them how to do it. So then I didn't have to sit there and grind all day on dulling these knives. That was kind of the start. And then it wasn't until, of course, the USN, and then gathering. And then after the gathering, I made it my goal to meet Jeremy Marsh in person.
Yeah.
And we kind of hit it off. I love his designs. He and, of course, Michael are two of my favorites as far as design. And
thanks.
And so anyways, we met, and then he invited me to come out and to his place, and he taught me how to make a knife, basically.
Oh, very cool.
So he taught me how to grind. And then at that time, I was using Rhino to design, and I kind of started designing a few knives, what I kind of thought I would want. And it was a lot of, I don't know, it was kind of like on the side, so it was a little bit here and there. It took maybe about 3 years to actually come to a fairly solid design. and then I was really focused on trying to get the geometry proper, with the folder. You guys know how hard that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Piece of cake. You change one little part and it changes everything else, and thank God I was doing it on Rhino, or on the computer. So it was basically just line art and rotating the blade around in the program to try and achieve the proper geometry. And then I actually water jet a batch of parts, bought blade steel, bought titanium, had it all water jetted out. And then I went to try and, kind of pre-assemble everything. And then I realized, the Balti tent is falling off the blade when you rotates around.
Ooh.
Oh.
So that scrapped out a bunch of parts. And then, before that, I made parts too big. So that scrapped out another batch of parts. And then I don't know how to explain it. I'm kind of lazy, but I need to have the right tools and equipment. Everything needs to be right in order for me to move forward. So I actually bought a mill so that I could make knives. And then I built jigs, so that I could hold the water jet parts. And then I bought all kinds of other tools to, the reamers and drills and all that other stuff. And so I had to have all that set up before I could even make it, even though I had the plan done. And if it wasn't for help with a bunch of other knife makers giving me great advice, it would never happen. But because they gave me great advice, I was able to make my first knife. I was pretty excited, of course, pretty proud.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. It was probably maybe about 3 years ago.
Okay.
It was a big old boy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like thick steel. Not necessarily really big knives, but it had a 4-inch blade and chisel ground. And yeah, I have an affinity for chisel ground blades.
What kind of mill did you get?
Bridgeport.
Oh yeah,
Bridgeport.
You're gonna have something good.
Had to be a Bridgeport.
Mm-hmm.
Although I kind of bought the wrong attachments, but it's all good.
This, we talked on an episode early in the show life, I think, maybe not super early, about sometimes new makers come at it like, I have to go build a shop and I have to buy a Bridgeport and I have to have, like a big, huge shop setup before I can even start. And we were saying, no, don't let that stand in your way. But personalities are personalities, right? And it sounds like for you, it was kind of like, I don't even want to do this unless I have all the right stuff up front.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like I was on a mission from God and
right.
It had to be done.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I also bought a surface grinder.
Oh,
so
nice.
I could make knives. And then I had my friend machine an attachment so that I can adapt a belt sander to it.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was another thing that had to be set up first.
Yeah.
And then building that first knife, it probably took. I built two at the same time. One was kind of like the test mule, in case I jack it up. I still had one to fall back on.
Right.
And so I built two knives. It probably took me 3 weeks of just focusing on building the knife and nothing else. And I finished it.
With Michael and Sean, they're both looking at that going, yeah, 3 weeks, that's not bad.
Oh, and then
slow down, bro.
Making us look bad.
Yeah. Well, also, I had to order Chad Nichols Damascus, And poor Chad, I think that's the first and last batch that he ever made that was for a chisel ground blade. So I wanted like, what is it? Is it Sanmai or?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Basically, the core was on one side and exposed, and then the rest of the Damascus was on the other side.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I used.
Nice. What did you call that model, Derrick? I don't remember.
That was the Hachiman.
Okay.
Basically, in Japanese, it's the god of war. So then after that, it kind of evolved, and I wanted to make some changes. And I thought to myself that there's no way I could build another knife from the ground up. I just don't have time. I'm too busy with the steel flame stuff. And so I designed another knife, kind of similar, maybe straighter lines. That's called the Zanshin. And that one, I actually had a friend of mine help me with CNC machining on everything on that. So we CNC machined the scales, the block insert, the blade, and I actually machined inserts to go on the outside of that would screw into it. So I pretty much got machined parts, and that made it a lot easier for me to do what I needed to do. But even that took a long time as far as designing. Yeah, I don't see how you guys can do it.
Because that part
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it can take a long, long time. That and the programming.
Yeah, but even to do it by hand, I mean, yeah, give you guys a lot of credit. It's like, yeah, you definitely, I could see where it's definitely a lot of experience, trial and error. Yeah, and you got to be fearless too. Because, yeah, I don't know.
Stuff's going to get screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, watching watching him build a knife, I mean, he's like you, Michael. I mean, pretty old school, like, I know you have the mill now that allows you to do a lot more things, but, to hand draw the patterns, bandsaw it out, grind it, go to the mill and drill and tap and ream, do all those things. I mean, when I watch Jeremy do that, he's totally fearless. He just goes at it, and he makes it look so easy.
Well, I'm sure it's the same if someone watched you doing jewelry. It's all rote, muscle memory, sort of like drilling and tapping and those types of things are the easy parts because they're repetitive and you just kind of let your mind wander. You shouldn't, there's a safety tip. Don't let your mind water, but we do.
Yeah.
And that's when accidents happen, but.
Yeah, I know, and then for you guys to build it on another level, that's another amazing thing because I kind of know a little bit what that's like because, from building fine jewelry, everything has to be perfect and the details and stuff like that. And sometimes you get through a piece and you're almost done, and then one little thing just goes awry, and then you end up scrapping the piece. It's a lot of stress.
You try not to cry. You cry a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. But it's pretty funny. That's why, like Jeremy, his garage door has a bunch of parts stuck in it.
Yes. Yeah, it's like a porcupine on the inside.
Yeah.
Of a porcupine of frustration.
But you guys ever consider this? To me, it seems like a lot of knife makers like to shoot, and there's some correlation there, and whether it be precision rifle or pistol or whatever. Because I think sometimes, lining things up, right, you have to kind of like, you're eyeballing it, or you're trying to hit that mark, and you got to make it just right, you got to get that alignment just right, and a lot of times it's by hand. And just like shooting, you're trying to control this piece and put the bullet exactly where it needs to be on the target. but I don't know. It's just kind of a crazy theory that I had.
That's interesting.
Very.
I thought you were going to ask me if I ever shot my failures, and I was like, no, but I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Don't give me any ideas over here.
Yeah, I do that on purpose, but
Right.
So anyways, that's kind of how the knife part worked out. And then what's kind of interesting is my son Wes. He's always been into knives. I mean, I've taken him to all the shows and stuff like that. So he kind of grew up around that, and then he wanted to design a knife. So basically, he drew it up on the computer. He's very good with the computer program, so he drew it up, and then we had another company build it for us. And then that way, too, we can kind of blow it apart and customize it, do things with it. But it's a little bit easier route that way.
So I think for a lot of knife makers, the finishing piece, we've heard from a couple people in interviews, one of the questions we always ask knife makers is, what's your favorite part of the process? What's the part of the process that is kind of drudgery, you know what I mean? That you do it and it's part of the deal, but it's not the part you look forward to. And sometimes the finishing piece is part of it that some people don't care for. Some guys like the fact that they see the shape kind of emerge from the steel, right? And it's like, oh, that's the reward. So it's, it could be getting the profile right, or, starting to contour the handle and get it to where it feels right in your hand. And that's the magic. And in your case, your primary business is more on the, not to diminish it, but like on the decorative side, right? On the make it cool side of things. And is the knife thing for you, Derrick, is that like a means to an end kind of thing? Do you think of it as like a platform that I can use to do the cool stuff that I like? Or was it really knife making at the core and, I have these other capabilities too, so I can, because the customs that you've done, they're dressed up in very cool ways, right? They have lots of neat little details in them, but I was curious, is it a canvas or is it the thing on its own that really drives you?
I don't know. I guess it's kind of like a little bit of everything.
Okay.
For me, the obsession was to design it first on the computer. I mean, basically in line art, and to make everything fit. And I like to look at when I'm designing things, that the sum of the components are, I don't know how to put it. So each component has to look as good as it can be. And then put together, it has to look as good as it can be.
Right.
So it's not, so the details are in the details, basically. I don't know if that makes sense. And then trying to get everything to fit. And again, too, like how I was saying, you change a little line here, a little line there, and then pretty soon things change, and pretty soon it starts morphing into something else that wasn't really part of the original vision. And but that's why even when I design on the computer, which I like to do in Rhino with line art, I save every single line, every single file. So I have files that are like, maybe 30 or 40 saves.
Yeah.
With a bunch of other lines that are saved within that, so that if you were to open my file and all the lines, it would look like a huge blob of just a huge blob of lines.
Haystack.
Yeah. So to me, part of the obsession is getting the lines down. And then once the lines are down, then it's like, okay, what are we looking at as far as thickness and the balance and the feel? And that, of course, you can't get until you start cutting parts. So then it's, making a little prototype and seeing how that is, seeing how it works. And then it's back to the drawing board a lot of times, change a few lines, refine it. It's too thick, and there's a certain balance to the handles even. I mean, you can, I don't know. Like one thing I admire about Michael's knives is, your scales are kind of on the thinner side. And I like that because it has a neat feel and a neat weight to it. So when I was designing my knife, I couldn't really get everything so thin. It had to be kind of thick because I wanted to use thicker steel and because I wanted to put inserts in it. So it had to be kind of thick. So what I had to do is adjust the girth, from top to bottom a little bit so it had the proper balance. So there's a lot of playing around with those things. And I don't know, and I guess, with you guys, you can understand that, right? I mean, when you make it, you feel it, and it's got to feel right, and it's got to look right, and it's got to have the proper balance between, the scales and the blade, and every single line needs to flow properly.
It has to fit in the proportions that you have imagined in your head. As far as for me, blade thickness to handle thickness, I cannot stand when there's, and I don't know what that line is for me, but there's a certain line that I can't cross where the blade is too thin for the handle.
Yeah.
But I know when I see it and I'm like, nope, too much.
Yeah.
It's a ratio.
Yeah. And that's kind of what's ingrained in your vision. And no matter what style you're building, that's kind of a consistent element that goes into your work. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting. I mean, for me, the obsession was to build something that I wanted, that I wanted to carry, basically. But I didn't realize that there's so much involved, so much work involved,
right,
into building it, which was, part of the process and the journey and the learning and all that. I mean, that, it was an experience that I don't regret at all. And I enjoyed every part of it. And it's always exciting to get the parts and then to start putting it together and then seeing, oh, yeah, it works and it fits. Everything lines up the way it, is supposed to as it's open, in the open part. It lines up, properly when it's closed. And then, the part where you grind it and then you fit the lock. And yes, the detent works. There's all those satisfactions that come along with it. And it's also the stressful part, to make sure that it happens. I mean, totally scrap out a knife if you make the detent in the wrong place. It could be off a few thousandths and that's it. So but I don't know. I mean, finishing it and having it done, yeah, that's definitely the most rewarding part. But it's always stressful. I mean, put it together, grind a little, pull it apart, change this, finish that, put it together, feel it, make sure it works. I mean, I don't think people realize how many times that knife goes together and comes apart. Right? I mean, you guys know, but that's why, even for me doing it, it's like, oh, it's together, apart. So, I have different pivots that I'm using to work with it, while I'm grinding and fitting and all that. And then I put new pivots in there or new screws. Yeah, it's pretty stressful. But once it's done, then it's like, yeah.
Right.
I finished it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess it's kind of like building those model airplanes,
Yep.
Yeah.
Piecing everything together, and then you're just like, yeah, it's done.
Yep. Big payoff at the end.
Yeah.
So Derrick, do you, like you said, all of that was happening, at least the more recent stuff was all happening while in the meantime, right? You got a day job, right?
Oh, yeah.
Making running Steel Flame, and it's doing well and growing and, continuing to have a bunch of increase in the number of people that follow and that are clamoring for it and all that kind of stuff. So is the knife thing something that you want to do more of in the future, or is it more of like, I'm going to do it when I have time because it's cool, or what do you think?
Well, I think realistically, I know where my forte is. It's really in the steel flame side of it, and the product. But I don't know. Knives, I think, again, too, it just takes up so much time. I mean, even though I have a few blanks that are machined and they're pretty much ready to go, I still haven't had time to sit down and just block everything out and focus on building it and finishing it. So that's a tough one. I mean, I really want to, but then there's always so many other things that are coming around that require my time.
Yeah.
So I think realistically, it's going to be tough for me to get into making knives on a regular basis, I guess. Maybe a few here and there. I don't know. Who knows? Might get an idea or a thought for something, and then that's the obsession.
Right.
And I got to get it done just to get it out of my head.
Yep.
But I think one thing in the back of my head, which I kind of would like to get into, is maybe a smaller fixed blades. Something that would be a little bit on the tactical side, easy to carry Kydex sheath. So, kind of have some ideas for something like that, but really nothing solid in as far as plans.
Right.
But I still have to finish up some of these other knives.
Yeah.
So we'll get to them.
We've talked a little bit before about projects that are in your head and have to get out. And I think at some level we all have those. I know Michael gets those sometimes, like, I'm going to make some kitchen knives. I'm going to go make kitchen knives. And then boom.
Got another one in the works right now.
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, it's part of the creative process, right? Is if you don't honor that stuff, you can spoil it a little bit, I think.
Yeah. And that's kind of, for me, it's part of the motivation to get off my butt and do something to a certain degree, right? I mean, you have this idea, and then I don't know if it's like that with you guys, but I get this idea and I just got to see it done, and then I start on it, and it's just, that's my whole focus. I don't think about anything else. I just want to see it done. And then once it's done, then move on.
I think that's why I like the designing part sometimes so much, because it's like you get that idea, like you said, and then once I started learning like computer, CAD stuff, I'll sit for days just staring at it. My eyes will hurt, my hands will hurt, and but I can't look away. I have to finish it.
Yeah. How about with you, Sean?
Man, like anymore, I'll get something in my head and I just got to get it out so I can go to the next thing. Because if I don't get it out, that's all I'm thinking about, and I'll be working on something else, but I'm thinking about that. So it's not really what I'm wanting to be doing at the moment. So you just got to, let that thing run its course, and then you can get back to regular life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Stupid obsession.
Yeah, dude, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's, it gets to a point where it's like intrusive thoughts.
Yeah. First thing that's the other thing, first thing I get up in the morning or just start waking up, that's what my mind goes to. And it's just like, then I can't go back to sleep no matter what time I get up.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
yeah, same.
It's weird because you can kind of sense addictive patterns in that obsession. You ever felt that a little bit? Like, this isn't healthy. It's healthy in a way that I'm doing something productive.
Yeah.
But I could see how if it was flipped a little bit, it would be 100% bad.
Well, a compulsion is a compulsion.
Yeah. It's kind of weird sometimes how we approach it, and then how it comes out and manifests itself.
Yeah. And that's like me with, almost everything, actually.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I know from experience.
Yeah. I guess that's where it's nice, like where we're at with steel flame, and whether it's knives or clips or, spinners, I feel really blessed that I could just, play around with a lot of different things. And that's really, that's the fun part.
Yeah, it's a flexibility that not everybody has. So like you said, it's very cool to have that and be able to explore it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the knives were something that, I mean, it's been an obsession to make a knife since I was a kid. So finally getting to do that. But yeah, it definitely would not have happened if not for the help of, guys like Jeremy Marsh, Flavio, Icoma. He helped me out a lot with a lot of advice. Jim Burke, Michael. It's pretty daunting to just get in there and start doing it. I mean, I give these young makers a lot of credit because they are fearless. When they get into it, they just start going at it and and building stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because they don't know no better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Go knock yourself out, kid.
Yeah.
So how did the production stuff come about then?
Production, you mean the production knives or?
Yeah.
Or
that's the stuff he was talking about with Wes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, mainly with Wes. I mean, it's something I kind of had in the back of my head, but then not really. I mean, who knows? I mean, it'd be fun to design stuff and then, have other people make it and sell it. I kind of like that part. But I think, I mean, with Wes, it worked out perfect. I mean, we had a friend that was, had the capabilities and I trusted him and we figured, and it was really nice too because of our customer base and our fans and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what they might like. So it's not such a huge risk for us to try something new. And then I kind of set it up too so that we can customize it. And I think that's kind of the key. So then, kind of like what you were talking about, Mark, it basically is a blank canvas,
right,
for us. So, in one sense, we're basically able to build the canvas, and then we can customize it and have fun with it. So, like with with Wes's knife, we have a ton of scrap parts laying around where we tried customizing it, tried different things, and they just didn't work out. So. No one's going to see those.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like you said, the cool part about that version of the knife story is it maybe, like you said, it makes it easier, right? Because, okay, I can have a bunch of these that we can experiment with. And if we hit on something we really like, we're going to do it. Then we'll roll and do some that way. But you hate to do that with one that you have 3 weeks or 5 weeks or 3 years in the making, right? Yeah. Maybe the stress level is a little higher.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's scary. You spend all that time bandsawing a blade and then you grind it and you do all that stuff. And then like I said, all it takes is one little oops here and there. And that's it. All those hours go down the drain.
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of the reason why, like for me, when I started, I didn't start by cutting out the parts by hand. To me, I had to water jet it, so I have at least a dozen parts that I could scrap out.
Right.
Try different things with it, and it wasn't so bad because, for me, that my time putting into it is didn't hurt as much.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the first time I went to Michael's shop, we were goofing around in the shop for a few days, and he had a bunch of toolboxes and. Okay, these drawers these are materials, right? So you open these drawers and there's a bunch of crazy materials that he's kind of accumulated over time, and some stuff that he's used a lot of, and some that maybe that he hasn't used at all, and some that's like Michael's secret drawer that he doesn't want to really make into knives. So you don't want to let go of that material, that kind of stuff. And then it's like, wow, look at this big drawer full of all kinds of stuff. What is this? And I don't remember, maybe in the conversation it ended up being called the drawer of broken dreams, right? It's like, this is great ideas that somehow turn wrong, right? Something happened or didn't fit or I don't know.
Yeah, some of that's like, and even like mid-tech pieces and parts, I've got those and piles too that you can't really get rid of because what if you have to replace something or, you just kind of hold on to them.
Yeah. I know. That's a kind of another weird thing, as far as keeping parts. I mean, sometimes we save it, but then sometimes now at this point in my life, I'm thinking, when am I ever going to use it again? So I just, I need to clear out all the clutter. Get it out of here.
Michael's still in the pack rat phase. Don't wreck it for him.
I cleared a lot out on this last Christmas clean, or whatever you want to call it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Just except for I still have a lot of water jet parts, and I'm never ever going to use them.
Yeah.
I can't. But it's like the steel's there. I'm like, well, what if I don't know.
I know, huh? It's still hard.
Yeah, I didn't throw away. I did take a lot of titanium and steel to scrapyard.
Uh-huh.
That felt so good. Just buckets and buckets of bronze. And
how many pounds?
Ended up being 150 pounds or something.
Yeah.
Wow. Made $300. I was like, holy shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yep.
Wasn't expecting that.
There's a little soul cleansing that goes with that too, right? It's like, okay, I get the stuff out of here. Sometimes letting go of it is good for your brain.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah.
You look at it and you're like, well, it's thick enough to be a backspacer. That used to be my rule. If it's thick enough to be a backspacer, I probably ought to hold on to it. And there's like, or I could just let it be gone.
Yeah.
Let it go back into the circle of metal life.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're going to end up needing it now.
I still got a little.
Yeah, it's right. Exactly. Right. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah.
Don't let him fool you. All right. So sometimes at the end of a show or toward the end of a show, we get into some more fun stuff, right? Like some questions that kind of lighten it back up a little bit.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
From what I understand, you're kind of a paintball guy, and I don't know how far back you go.
Way back.
But my question is, Kingman Spider or Tipman? Or something else?
Neither. So when I started, it was Nelspot or Sheridan.
Okay, yeah.
Go back that
old
far.
School, yeah.
They were just cattle markers.
Yeah.
Paint came in a cigar tube.
Yep.
And costed $2. There was only 12 gram CO2s, and there were no modifications to the markers whatsoever. You had a little lever on the side of the gun to cock it. One modification, first modification of my very first paintball marker, was a handle that you could pull kind of like a shotgun to cock the piece. And I played with that marker for probably a good 10 years. I modified it a little bit. And so we were mainly pistols. Even though all the stuff started evolving, I stuck with the pistol. And then, then semi-autos came, cockers, and auto mags. Those were some of the early ones. There was a Tipman that had I think it was a 50 cal, had a strip clip on it that came out the side. Yeah, it's, but now we play with Sniper, which is a pump action autococker, or autococker is what I like to play with. And there's a electronic marker called the Lux, and that thing shoots really sweet, but that's if you want to rip a bunch of balls. It's pretty fun, but we play pretty much every single variation of paintball.
That's fun. Yeah, we used to play a lot back in the day.
Oh, really?
But
Oh, cool. So how long have you been, how long has it been? What did you start with?
Last time I played was probably at least 10 or 15 years ago.
Oh, but when you first started, what were you playing with?
So everybody in my family, so basically we had a tank with a drop siphon, and everybody had their own guns, and
Cool.
We had a bunch of extras, but everybody was running Tipman except for me. I had a Kingman Spider.
Oh, cool.
And
so you were the big dog then.
I mean, it was
black
just
sheep.
different. Yeah, it was just different. So, and I recently found it. It got some water damage, and I sent it off and had it totally rebuilt. So it's
oh wow,
it's like
cool.
brand new now.
Well, that's good. Yeah, well, Kingman's no longer producing
it's all gone
stuff. Even the autococker. I mean,
I've got an autococker now that I bought from a cousin, and I've never even used it. So,
oh really?
He needed some money, and I bought all this stuff maybe 5-10 years ago, 6 years ago.
Those are cool. I mean, there's a lot of monkey motion going on with those, but once you get them dialed in, they shoot really well. And I like the feel of that monkey motion when you pull the trigger.
Yeah,
it's kind of like shooting a 1911. You have this big old slide moving back and forth, and versus cool. Well, when you come to Cali, we got to play.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
good times.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know, paintball. I've been playing, I think, longer than I've been married, over 35 years.
Oh, wow. I was just going to ask, how many years have you been playing paintball?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm so blessed. I mean, I have the best wife in the world, because I would be able to play every single weekend, period, for 35 years. Sometimes twice in a week, sometimes 3 times in a week.
Wow.
But I was so obsessed with playing. I mean, that was my life.
That's a lot of fun.
And it's a great stress release. So sometimes it would be like, hey, you need to go out and play. Because
she's
you're
like,
a little too wound up. You're a little wound too tight right now.
There you go.
Go play.
The
only time I took off was when my kids were young. They were born. That's about it.
Wow.
Awesome.
And then now I would still be playing every week except for COVID,
Right.
COVID thing, the situation.
Very cool.
It's great exercise.
A very long-running passion. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Sean? You got a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah. What's an artist, object, anything that has influenced your design aesthetic that would surprise us?
Lucienne.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about that too. I didn't know about that.
So Lucienne started because I used to be being in the fine jewelry industry. Everything was gold, diamonds, that kind of stuff. Basically, fine jewelers in those days spit on sterling silver, like it was, too cheap.
Beneath them.
Yeah, beneath them. And so my sister-in-law drew the birthday party invitation for my son, my firstborn. He's 30 years now. And I took that image and I wanted to make something for my wife. So I figured out a way to get the image onto a tag. And I took my dad's machinist lettering set and I stamped his name in there. And I added tiny little dots, kind of like a Tinker Toy writing, which was kind of popular in those days. And that was the very first piece of Lucienne. That's how Lucienne started. Then I had my sister-in-law draw a girl character, had her draw the dog and the cat, and we had our collection. So the stick figure character that, you see all over the place, that people would draw. I mean, she used to draw that when she was a kid. That was $1 million design. That's why we had the crew we had. That's why we did the business we did with all these corporate entities. And so that one design was, I'm trying to make all this super fancy, cool stuff. And here, this stick figure design made the most money.
Yeah. That's wild, right? Flat work, a lot of it, and super simplified. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there's so many things that were like milestones throughout the career, but that's probably the biggest there.
So, Derrick, Lucienne is still a thing that you guys do, or is it a partnership thing, or how does it work today?
No, we still have that collection. But right now it's mainly online, and it's taken a backseat to steel flame. So, I mean, I feel kind of bad, but I'm just driven with steel flame, and that's where all my time goes.
Yeah.
But it still has, I mean, it has a lot of potential. I don't know why. I should put more effort into it. But it really taught me a lot too, about the emotional factor of product, because of the fact that we hand stamped all the names into the tags, and that tag symbolized that person's child. That was a huge emotional factor.
Oh yeah.
That's the reason why it really took off.
Abby still wears hers all the time.
Oh really? Oh,
yep.
Cool. That's because that's her kids on there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Direct line to the mom's heart. You can't miss.
No.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about watching movies with your father.
Uh-huh.
Which movie with sword play stood out the most to you?
Oh, I don't know. Well, in those days, the Japanese movies, there was the actor Toshiro Mifune.
Yep.
And he was good. I mean, even now I look back and I think, yeah, because man, those guys are swinging these things around like surprising they didn't kill anyone.
Yeah. I like the huge sword he had in Seven Samurai.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that sword stands out. I mean, it was as big as he was.
Yeah. And then, there's those. And then after a while, it started becoming the Yakuza movies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where in my heart, I really always wanted one of those little daggers with the wooden sheath, the tanto with the wooden sheath, because that's what the guy would use and kill off the whole, clan of bad guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, those were fun times. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's what taught me to read, because I had to read subtitles to know what they were doing.
There you go. That's good motivation.
Yeah.
So, Derrick, you mentioned car stuff, and so I know you've had some really, really cool car projects. What do you have in the works, or what interesting ones would you be willing to share with people and talk about a little bit?
Well, yeah, I've always been into cars. I mean, ever since I could drive, and I could never leave anything alone. But like currently, I have a 74 half-ton Chevy pickup, square body. I'm putting a blown rat motor in it. And it's slammed on the ground. What started out as a really simple, cheap project is now become over 10 years and still not done, which is driving me nuts. But yeah, everything on the vehicle is different. I mean, changed. I was fortunate because my friend that's helping me work on it, he's also a machinist, CNC machinist. So I designed the wheels for it, and he machined them for me.
Oh, very cool.
He's fabricating the whole rear end out of stainless steel. The motor is kind of a cool piece because it was gifted to me from my best friend, Mike Ng. And it's what that motor used to be in the boat that we used to ride in when we go to the river.
Ah, very cool.
So it's a really cool piece. It's old school LS6, 4-bolt main. So it has a lot of sentimental value, and it's kind of cool because the whole truck is pretty much a rat rod, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not going to be shiny. There's not going to be any chrome on this. And then I get to add a lot of my steel flame parts to it. So like the master cylinder for the brake booster is one of my flasks, actually 2 of my flasks.
Yeah. I think you shared pictures of that before, didn't you?
Designed, yeah. Custom CNC machined, and I soldered skulls on it, did all kinds of crazy stuff. And Yeah, we're going to fabricate the valve covers, velocity stacks. The shifter, I'm going to CNC out of superconductor.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be a skull with a big old, with wings on it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a cheap project.
Yeah. One thing led to another, and that's probably the reason why it's not done. But one day, hopefully next year, at least we'll be rolling and driving it. And it's going to be as radical as hell. I mean, that's my passion is nothing like the sound of a super radical motor.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I have because that project has been sitting for so long, I always have to have something to drive. So I bought a ZL1 1LE, which I love. That thing's amazing. But again, I can't leave it alone. So,
right.
Cam, headers, pulleys, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted the sound. But,
right.
Yeah. Again, too, it's kind of funny because I'm not a racer. I don't have to drive fast, but I just love the sound of a radical motor. So,
yes.
And just to feel the road. So, as bumpy and noisy as it can be is what I like.
That super gnarly sound I don't know, makes the hair on your back of your neck stand up, right? It's just like, ooh, you can tell
that's what I grew up
bad
with.
business going on.
Yeah, because like Mike had a 69 Chevelle with a big block in it. It was super radical. I just remember one time when we were kids, we took a Chevelle and we were going through the Pup and Taco drive-through.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Can I take your order? Can I help you? Give me a Coke." "What? A Coke? A what? A Coke?" You couldn't hear them over the motor, and the motor's just echoing between the buildings. And it's like, it was the funniest thing going through the drive-through with that monster.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I want to do that when I get my truck together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, side dump exhaust just for the taco drive-through experience.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. It's got cutouts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We'll do that with vehicles when we're evaluating, is to take them through a drive-through. That's actually part of what we do, because you hear so much weird stuff reflecting off the brick or cinder block or stone walls of a drive-through. You hear stuff that you'd never hear sitting in the car, and it just amplifies it. So
yeah, that's cool. Actually, there's a section of road where it has this brick divider that I love going next to, and rolling the window down so I could hear the motor in the car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
very cool.
Crazy things we do for stupid stuff
thrills.
Like that. Yeah, cheap thrills.
Cheap in air quotes.
Yeah, air quotes, right.
Yeah.
Well, Derrick, this has been really, really fun. We appreciate you taking so much time to chat with us.
Thank you, guys.
Tell us about your life.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, a lot of food for thought. I really enjoyed talking with you, bud.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, I definitely enjoy your guys' company and have huge admiration for all of what you guys do.
Hopefully we'll get to make it to a show this year and hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
at least
the
that.
dream.
Or to go somewhere. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, even if we could travel, like going to shows is cool but then there's so much distraction there. It's neat to be able to just like one-on-one, like just spend some time with that individual and just hang out and talk and get to know that person.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
rather do that.
We've I think I mentioned this the other day, but it's selfishly for us, that's I think one of the things that's been really, really nice about doing the show, the podcast, is we're all on friend withdrawals, right? Because we're so used to seeing all of our pals every couple of months. And so for us, it's been really nice because there's a continuity through all this COVID stuff that's happened where, you might do a happy hour with your friends every once in a while, but we're like at least every other week, and sometimes more often than that, we're on the phone with each other. And it's certainly for me, and I think for the other guys too, it's been nice to kind of keep that conversation going and that connection going
Yeah, and
it's been really good.
Like, I mean, we have some conversations with each other via text and messaging and stuff like that. But man, it takes for me forever to type or text. But I was thinking, just to throw this out there, is like, wouldn't it be cool if we did like a meeting like this, not recorded, just talk about stuff, who needs help with something or ideas, and just throw them all on the table, and just mix it up. Okay. And then, maybe someone's, got a project going and they need help with it. I mean, those are the things that make collaborations fun. And sometimes, you're in your shop and it's just you grinding away, and it seems like, well, I'm kind of reached a stalemate or something,
That's the norm.
Talking with another artist or creative that can understand what you're going through, and then, maybe just bounce ideas off. And that's where really cool, fun things come up. I don't know. It could be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want, I'm down. Yeah.
Derrick is in.
Yeah. So
very cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So we have these nice folks on Patreon that support the show every month, and we always thank them for their help. So thanks to all of our Patreon listeners for sticking with us and keeping us moving. We have a Facebook group for Mark of the Maker that we constantly have people joining, which is really, really fun because we share pictures and information and conversation in there. So thanks to everybody who takes the time to chat with us in the Facebook group and contributes. We have lots of stuff. Like we'll have a show about like when we did movie knives, we said, hey, come post your movie knives in the Facebook group, and people come on and
that's cool.
You know what I mean? It was really fun. So we get great participation with that. So thank you to everybody who joins us for the Facebook conversation and follows us on Instagram. We told people we're going to have some really cool things for 2021, and this is definitely the first one of 21 and an awesome one. So thanks again, Derrick, for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks all.
Take care, folks.
Take care. Thanks, guys.
To learn more about our makers, you can find Tom Crine on the web at crineknives.net, in his Facebook group, Crine Knives, or in his Instagram account at Crine Knives. For Michael Birch, check birchtreeblades.com, Facebook group Birch Tree Blade Works, or Michael's Instagram at birchtreeblades. For myself and the Raygun Bead Project, we're on the web at raygundivision.com. We have a Facebook group called Raygun Division, or my personal Instagram at msteiner. For those interested in photos, references from the show, or some discussion about the show itself, you can find us on the web at markofthemaker.com, in a Facebook group called Mark of the Maker, or on our Instagram at Mark of the Maker. Last but not least, the ultra cool and haunting background music we use for the show is a piece called Noir Guitar by Stevie's Amp Shack, found at the Free Music Archive and licensed under Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. Thanks for listening.